What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got some mods to install on the Jeep Gladiator, and yeah, today is May 21st and it's snowing. Roads and everything were wet, so nothing stuck, but there's about 12 inches of snow that stuck to the ground, just fell overnight. But let's check out what we got and get this project going. So here we have our 2021 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon. We are running 35s, and if you saw a few of our previous videos, these 35s are just barely touching on the inside of the fender liner. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a fender chop. So we have our Quake LED fender chop for the JT Rubicon. We have some extra fender clips in case we break some. And we got some new fender liners. So came across this company, Wolfstorm. They're pretty new. Customer service is absolutely amazing. I had questions for them. I messaged them about 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. They responded within 20 minutes. I ordered the next day, which was a Friday, and these were on my front porch Monday. So since our fender chop is going to remove the fender liners on the inside of our front and our rears, we're going to need to put some new fender liners in there. Let's go ahead and get started. So Quake LED kit, we ended up getting the just the white one with the sequential turn signal, so it's DRL, sequential turn signal, amber light on the side, so it's still DOT approved. We got our spare fender clips in case we break them. You can order these off of Amazon. There's a million companies out there that make them. They run $1 or less per clip. And then we got our Wolfstorm fender liners, our front inner fender liners, and our rears. Gonna probably break this up into 2 videos here. We'll do one for the Quake LEDs, and then I'll do a separate one for the Wolfstorm fender liners if you guys are interested in that. Now these Quake fender liner chop kits, it's literally just a light in a front bracket, made of metal. It's powder coated and feels pretty durable, and it should just be plug and play. There are a couple of different options out there, but what we're looking at is removing all of this and then just having that slimline kit here. I think Rugged Ridge makes one to where you actually keep this inner fender liner. I'm not sure if Quake has one that does that as well, but there are a few companies that will keep this. Our point is to, or our main reason to do this is to clear out this fender so we have more room for up travel for our suspension. So that's why we're going to be removing this. The only negative that I can think of so far is you have to remove some of the support components on the inside here, which could make this a little flimsier, but that's why we have that metal bracket from the Quake LED kit to keep these fenders more rigid. So there's a few ways to get these fenders out. Some people will just push the fender from the inside. Some people will drill out the center hole. Other people, I saw they took like a push pin or whatever, and you can shove it in the middle of this, and then with some force, you should be able to push that out. Let me set the camera down here, that way I can actually get some leverage on this and push. There you go, you can push it out. They are a little tough to push out, so if you can't push them out, you might take a look at just drilling out the center of those. There you go, it does take a little force. I just wanted to show you the other method. I have a 3/32 inch bit here. Basically just going to stick it on the center of those plastic rivets. And then you can drill them out that way. And then get your rivets out that way as well. Just so you can see what the rivets look like. I was still using my push pin. And then when I shoved it all the way through, you're going to push, come on, focus. You can push that rivet that's in the middle out of the way. And then this one just happened to stick to my tool and pull out. But that's basically all you're doing. You're trying to push that rivet out. So once you got all those rivets pressed out, you're gonna have a 10mm nut there, or bolt there, 10mm bolt there, and then another 10mm bolt right here, and then you got some Christmas clips. So let's get those 3 bolts out of the way. All right, now we got to get the Christmas tree clips out. So you're looking back towards the front of the Jeep. Here's the bumper right here. Engine's on the other side here. Let's get your tool, flathead screwdriver, body trim removal tool, or what have you, and pop these guys out. We're not reusing any of this stuff, so it's not the end of the world if you end up breaking one of these clips. All right, let's go to a higher level of force. There we go. Higher level of force did it. Alrighty, sorry about the lighting here, but we just got some clips here that we need to remove from just on the outside of the fender here. So let's see if I do this one-handed. See, that one came out. That one wanted to cooperate. So there's another one right up here. Another one cooperated. Let's just pop the rest of these out. So after you get the 4 across the top here, you have 2 down here at the bottom. Can't do that left-handed. 2 down here at the bottom. That just pop your tool in. Out they come. And then I'll grab this back one. My tire's in the way there, but I'll grab that back one too. So now once you got all those rivets out and those Christmas tree clips, your fender liner is loose and we can start pulling this out. So I'm going to set you down and I'm going to start pulling that out here. There you go. Fender liner is completely out, and now we can have access to these fender retaining clips. So before you start trying to pop those retaining clips out, there is one more bolt that we have to remove here. That's actually the bolt that the Quake LED light is going to mount to. But let's go ahead and get this off. It's another 10mm. Also, after removing the bolt from this mounting piece directly under your turn signal, remove the bolt that is recessed right here, right behind it. All right, so I'll do a few of these within shot of the camera for you, but these clips, that are in here, they basically have a camera. They have this little T-post right here. What you're trying to do is get your tweezers in there, and you're going to squeeze those in order to pull them out of the holes that are in the body. This top part is the part that actually clips to the fender itself. Try to do this as careful as you can, getting these out without damaging them if you don't have spare clips on hand. Alrighty, so you're going to be pulling out on the fender at the same time as you're pinching these. and then just kind of work your way around. You can always take the tire off to get in there a little bit more if you need to. But those first two are out, and we'll just keep working our way around here. So, after removing those bolts and then taking a pair of pliers, I went and I got a longer set of pliers and squeezing the back of those fender clips, we should be able just to reach in and pull this off. I missed a clip up here. Where'd you go? Gotta use my smaller those pliers to get to that one. There we go. So that comes off, and now we need to unplug our LED switch, our LED wire. So that guy's right there. Take you guys off my mount here. So we're going to remove that. It's a little red locking switch right there. Alright, it's a matter of pulling this red lock back and then pushing on this black tab on the inside, and then it comes out. So now our fender is free from the Jeep. Alright, so once you get the fender off, you're going to have a blanket or something on the ground because you don't want to lay your painted fender face down on the concrete. It'll get all scratched up. So, go ahead and place this on the ground. Our next steps are going to be to remove the front LED, factory LED housing, and basically gut all of this stuff out of the inside. So let's start by removing the wiring and the LED housing, just Christmas tree clips to pop the wiring off of here. And just keep pulling them off like that. After you're done removing the harness from the inside of the fender, it is now time to remove the LED housing off of the fender itself. Okay, so we got the wiring harness off. There are two T30 bits that are in here that we just need to get those removed to get the light housing out. So I have my T30 screwdriver here, and we'll just unscrew these and get them out real quick. There you go. So again, the T30 Torx bit is kind of like this star-shaped bit to get these guys out. Two of those, and get those removed here. And just to be difficult, on the bottom there's another screw, but this one, instead of being a Torx bit, it is just a Phillips. Still need to keep some pressure behind it. There you go. And that screw is basically push pin, so that explains why it's not Torx. So after you remove that Phillips right there, it'll open up and it'll reveal two more Torx bits, screws. Sorry about the kids screaming in the background. They just got back from the store and they're playing in the snow. There's one. Second one is right there. And the second one's out. And when we were pulling all these body trim tools, if one of them that you pressed out didn't get pulled out all the way, you can just use your body trim removal tool, flat screwdriver, pop that guy out right there. And I believe that should get us to the point where this will all come out. We just push the light straight back from the front. We're still hanging on to something here. Oh, no, we're just caught on the side of the lens here. But you're just going to push it back from the outside. This amber marker was actually just hooking right there, so push it back from the front and then just tilt it out to get the light housing unsnagged. So there we go. We have our LED turn signal light assembly off, and we are now to the point where we have a fender opening in the front. We just need to gut all this stuff out from the inside. We no longer need all this plastic stuff on the front. So we'll start back on the back side. So this is the back side of the fender, LEDs on the other side. We need to remove this mesh bracket. It's got more of these push pins here. We're not, or these plastic rivets. We're not looking at keeping those, so I'm just gonna see if I can cheat just by clipping the back of them off. If not, we can always just use the method of drilling it out or pushing the pin all the way through. But this is just me being curious. So, got that clipped from the back side there. So, yes, you can just clip the plastic off if you don't feel like pushing it all the way through. So, right there, it's all clipped off. I'm just trying to not flex and bend this fender too much because I don't want to cause any sort of cracking or anything in the paint. So I'm just looking at alternative solutions to resolving these rivet clips without trying to press on this. So, got another one right down here. Let's see if I can get it from the other side, left-handed, so you guys can see what I'm doing. So, got the clip in there. Cut that off. So, there you go. This, don't need it anymore. Here's the rivet that I just cut off. This is the one that I drilled out at the beginning of the video, and I didn't like the drilling out method too much. I just like pushing them all the way through, but there's that one. So that plastic piece is off, and let's go on to the next step here. So before we can start pulling everything else out, this is the housing portion where the LED light was in. Inside here, there's this plastic clip. This clip is what holds this housing to the fender itself. So let's just go ahead and pop that out. Let's see if I can get you guys set up here to where you can see that. Find my screwdriver, and we're just going to press that down, and we should be able just to push it out. Just like that. So that clip is now out. So now we are at the point where it's time to separate this inner liner from the fender itself. It's really important that we don't twist the fender too much, otherwise we'll cause some cracking in the paint. All of these indentions right here is basically where they welded the plastic, you know, ultrasonic, whatever, and welded the plastic together. So I'm going to start in the corner and start peeling the stuff apart. And you're just going to pull and pop these guys off. So there are tabs here that that this liner hangs onto. So just make sure that you're keeping an eye on those tabs. But we're going to pop all these plastic welds all the way through and get this off. These tabs that are in here, we're going to end up cutting those off here in a little bit. So if you bend them or scratch them or anything like that, it's not the end of the world. So towards the back side of the fender, the part of the fender that goes all the way to the back of the car, one of these tabs here, it has a big nub right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll pick you up here. It has this big nub that sticks to the end, and it's a little bit bigger than the opening. I'm just going to try and clip that off here and see if it makes this process a little easier. So, just cut a little bit of that tab off. Let's see if this fender will move a little bit more for me here. There it goes. And this is kind of the hardest part for the whole thing. Let me get the camera turned around. There you go. I got my hand in behind this fender as I'm pulling it away. And there we go. This is no longer needed, so that can go away. And here we got our fender with all those little tabs that we need to cut off now. Did pretty well taking all these fender clips off. Doesn't look like we broke any of those. So let's get a sharp razor blade and get these guys trimmed. All right, so using a utility tool, sharp blade or something like that, we want to go through and we're going to trim these little tabs off. So all these little tabs we're going to trim off, and then we'll come back and hit it with some sandpaper here just to clean everything up. But go through and just slice them off. All right, so I got all this trimmed off. I got just a little piece of 150 grit sandpaper. This is the edge that is to the outside of the vehicle. And I'm just gonna go in here, and not on the paint side, but from the inside where the tab posts were. And I'm just gonna knock down some of those sharper edges from the trim here. So there is one more tab. This is the tab that is to the front. This is where the old LED housing was, and this is the side closest to the Jeep. So this is from the fender, your Jeep would go here. This is the tab where that little white tab that held in the LED, OEM LED light, this tab needs to be cut off as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that trimmed. So at this point, the next step would be to reinstall our fender back onto the Jeep and then mount our Quake LED lighting system. But because I'm doing aftermarket fender liners, because this fender chop kit leaves the engine completely open and exposed, I'm going to install those fender liners. So I'm going to film the other video of those fender liners getting installed right now, and then if you want to check that out, I'll link that video in the description. But the next time you see this Jeep, you'll see the fender liners in there. Alrighty, we are back. I got the Wolfstorm fender liner kit installed. Had a little notch for the power cord to go through. I had to pull the factory plug off the Christmas tree plug. That way this fender liner would fit in there. For the wiring, I'm actually going to probably try to, oops, sorry guys. I'm going to tuck the wiring up into the fender well between the fender liner. That way it doesn't hang down and get snagged on anything. It's a tight fit, so the friction's gonna hold it. And we're on top of these guys, so we shouldn't have to worry about it dropping down. There we go, the wires are tucked. So Normally, without this fender liner install, we would just pop the fender on there, bolt the LED turn signal right here, and then run the wires, but had to do it a little out of order this time. So I might toss the zip tie on this guy over here just to make sure. Actually, there we go. We're pretty tight in there now. Alrighty, so let's get this fender on. Okay, so to get our fender back in, it's a matter of just lining up all these clips and pushing them back in. So running into a little bit of an issue with this guide pin going through that hole, because the fender liner kit doesn't have a hole for that. So I think I'm just gonna chop that back just a little bit so we can get that to fit in. All right, just got a piece of tin snips and I just trimmed about half of it off to fit the rest of those. So let's see if that lines up and we can just clip this in. Get you guys set back up so you can see. Oh, much better, much better. Just make sure all the clips are in. Look at that. Okay, so it's a little flimsy right now, but that's where our Quake LED mounting bracket's going to go in here and then hold this nice and steady. So let me grab the hardware to get that put in place. All right, so these are 13 millimeter. Let's get these cinched down a little bit more. There you go. Probably gonna put a zip tie around this guy right here just so he stays in place, which the Quake LED kit does come with zip ties. Pull you guys out here real quick. Now there's a tab that sits on the LED light that goes up, and what they want you to do is drill a hole right here and set a screw on the outer edge. That way it doesn't flop around, but I think I'm going to see if I can find a different solution to keep from having to drill that hole. I'm going to have to loosen that up again and change the angle. There's a little bit of a lip here. So let me get that fixed. All right, there it is installed. I got the wire zip tied up in there so it's not going to come out. Fix the lip issue. That is all lined up. I might have to go ahead and drill this because you see it's a little loose right there. I'm gonna explore other options, maybe some epoxy or something like that to hold it on the inside, because I don't want a screw showing up out here. But as for if it's mounted on there, that is still strong. The concern about how rigid this is when we gut out the inside, no issues whatsoever there. It's just maybe a little flexy on the back side here. But as for the top of the fender, it's pretty solid. Let's take a look and see how this works. Let's take a look and see how this looks and if it works. Man, I hope it works. Alrighty, got the lights on, got the amber side marker, and then the daytime running lights. Compared to stock on this side, which that's the stock LED with the amber side marker. Big old plastic chunk down there. Actually looks pretty good. Probably a little more of a cool white than factory, the factory halo rings. But let's take a look at the hazards here, or the turn signals. Click that guy on. Check that out. Sequential instead of just the blinking yellows. There's the sequential lights. That's pretty slick. That's pretty slick and it's bright. I like it. Alright guys, so one of the last steps to installing these Quake LED lights is you're supposed to drill a hole inside your fender right here to run a bolt through. I didn't really want to drill a hole, so you can see the tab right there. I actually ended up using some epoxy and I glued it together, and it's a 1 minute epoxy. It cures in 1 hour. It was a little cold last night. This has been sitting here for about 18 hours, and my hope is it is attached and it's gonna stay. So right now, I mean, I'm pulling on it a decent amount. We'll see how that lasts, but I didn't like the idea of putting a screw right there. The screws that they give you are a chrome or a silver screw. I would have painted it black, but for right now, I think the epoxy is gonna work. Did it to both sides here. So I think that's gonna work. So I just use these clamps, put one end of the clamp here, the other end on top, lifted it up, put the epoxy on, clamped it together, towel on top. But I think that's gonna work. I didn't want to have to drill a hole. So let's just roll with that, and worst case scenario, if it doesn't hold, I'll just drill through the epoxy and everything and put that screw in. But just want to give that update there. And then in case you're wondering, I use JB Weld Minute Weld Instant Epoxy. So I've always been a fan of JB Weld. Some of you guys out there hate it. I actually don't mind having it around. So squeeze it out, mix the two equal amounts, and then spread it on with a popsicle stick, and you're all set. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in on the Fender Chop install. I just got to do it again for the other side of the Jeep, but it's the exact same procedure. I left a lot of things in there because usually when people do install videos, they omit the difficult parts or the parts that you're struggling. I want to post real videos, just like my trail videos. I post what the trail really is and not just certain bits and pieces. So hopefully this helps you guys a little bit with the Quake LED Fender Chop Kit. Subscribe, like the video. I'll catch you on the next one.